Hello, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Cars and Coffee with Kenny Brown Performance. Today, I'm going to be your host. I'm Brad Grissom from Kenny Brown Performance, and we have a good show today. Unfortunately, Carrie won't be joining us. She's feeling a little under the weather, so let's send her some well wishes. If you're viewing on YouTube, be sure to give us a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Be sure to hit the bell for notifications. If you're viewing today on Facebook, please be sure to give us a like, give us a heart-shaped wrench. We love those. That was always Kenny's favorite. You can also share this live video if you're viewing right now and you want to share it with friends or you want to share it with the group. Go ahead and just hit the share button and select the group that you want to share it with. Maybe Jeff Lacina, our special guest today, is going to be sharing it with the Track Guys Performance Driving Schools group on Facebook as well. So again, we've got a great show. Jeff Lacina is going to be joining us shortly live from Motorsport Park Hastings in Hastings, Nebraska. Again, that's Motorsports Park Hastings, for those of you who don't know about it. Jeff is a wealth of knowledge. He's been in the industry for years. I've known him for, I'm going to say, well over 25 years. I met him on track at Putnam Park when he was writing for Mustang magazines at the time. So that goes way back into the, I want to say, mid 1990s, something like that. So anyway, let's get the show started. I know we've got several people who've commented already. Jim Flaherty, hello, good morning. It's great to see you. Jay Myers from Buffalo, New York. Hopefully he stays warm over this cold weekend. Calvin Goring is joining us from Connecticut. We have Fred Fancher, who's joining us from Louisville, Kentucky. Joe Johnson, I saw you Wednesday night during the Speed Therapy Academy alumni meeting, and good morning to you. He's in Humble, Texas, the great state of Texas, and it looks like we've got several others who've joined us as well. So normally I do Brad's internet finds, and I did find one thing that I wanted to share this morning, and then we'll get into Jeff because today's show may run a little bit long, so we want to go ahead and get started with our special guest. But real quick, I found something that I thought was rather wild and interesting. Let's see, it's called the Wild Cyberpunk Chevy Corvette. Let me show you this. Okay, so I found this on the drive. This car is quite interesting, to say the least. And so I'm not sure what it is, actually. It says it's a Chevy Corvette. It was made from 9 different cars in one man's garage. And so it's got several different, it's got a rebody. It's basically a rebodied Chevy Corvette. And then it goes on to say that it was built from 9 different cars. And if I'm not mistaken, I think there might be some Fox body parts in here as well. But it's got a BMW i8 front bumper. It's got a bunch of stock car body parts from AR bodies. The guy obviously is a little obsessed, but he's got Fiat X19 parts on there. He's got a C3 rear clip. The rear glass is from a Trans Am. So anyway, there's a bunch of pictures. You guys can go to the drive and you can just look this up. It's pretty crazy stuff when you read the article. But anyway, Wild Cyberpunk Chevy Corvette. Google it, check it out. That's some real hardcore stuff right there. So anyway, I see we have Fox Body FX who's joining us. That's Lance Wilson in Georgia, and he's a great supporter of ours, and we look forward to having him on the show again very soon. He's going to get his own segment, and he also keeps threatening to take over the channel. So we'll see if that happens one morning as well. Eric Hodson, thank you for joining us. Joe Johnson, obviously Jeff Lacina knows him very well. They've known each other for several years, and he's gone to many events with Jeff. So without further ado, let's welcome Jeff Lacina. Jeff, how you doing this morning?
Hey, it's a beautiful day here in South Central Nebraska. Let me tell you, we've got multiple degrees today. Yesterday, when you and I were talking, we only had 2 of the degrees. Now we got 25 of the degrees, so it's a beautiful day.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it. For those of you who don't know, Jeff was our roving reporter from the PRI show. We had him on, I believe, the first or second Saturday in December. He joined us live from the PRI show, took us through a few of the booths. We got to talk to a few of the exhibitors that were there, and I believe that was the longest Cars and Coffee show that we've ever done. And we probably next year we're going to do PRI again. We're going to do it different. Hopefully I'll be live with Jeff from the show, and we can do multiple cameras, multiple booths, and we'll just make it a complete free-for-all, and we'll get the audience involved beforehand so you can tell us what booths you want us to go to.
Oh, so mayhem at PRI. Brad and Jeff mayhem at PRI. We need shirts. We need shirts for that, dude. So
yeah. Speaking of which, does Motorsports Park Hastings have T-shirts? I guess.
Yeah, we've got an apparel source right on our website, and not to make fun of you, Brad, but you haven't been here to the track, so it's Motorsport Park Hastings. I know it's a lot. It's a lot to say, but we're worth the tongue twister to make it all happen. But really, you can see it's about MPH, right?
Yeah.
So MPH is MPH. Our website is racemph.com. And if you go over to the left side of the page, you'll see apparel, and that'll take you to a place where you get some spiffy hats and shirts. And I think we got a track decal on there. I'm in one of my jobs as general manager here at the facility is maintaining all of our website, our social media, all of those things. So now that I've got our schedule hammered out, I'll be updating our website, getting some new content on there, obviously getting our 2023 schedule built. But then also updating some apparel. We've had some requests for some different style hats and some shirts and whatnot. So racemph.com.
Okay, cool. So that's how we get a hold of Jeff, or we learn more information about the track and the apparel. But so the reason why I asked about apparel is because today's giveaway is going to be a Motorsport Park Hastings T-shirt. Sweet. So, we're thinking of, we're not going to do a trivia question. So, today what we're going to do is we want you to type into the chat, I love MPH. So type into the chat, I love MPH, and we will collect the number of viewers who decided to actually do that to win the T-shirt. And then we will pick a number between 1 and whatever, however many people comment, and that'll be a random draw. Jeff will pick the number, and that person will win a free MPH T-shirt. So anyway, that'll be fun.
Very cool.
Start chatting now. Jeff, so I've known you forever. A lot of the people who are viewing today, have known you probably forever as well. But, give us a little bit of background about yourself. So you started as a contributor for various Mustang magazines, and I say various because it was at least more than one. You went on to be the marketing manager for ProCharger Superchargers, pretty big company. They were near you. They're in Kansas, I think, and you're the founder and owner of Track Guys Performance Driving Schools, who we've done many, many events with all across the Midwest and the Eastern U.S. And so now you are the general manager for Motorsport Park Hastings in Hastings, Nebraska. So tell us about your background. Give us some bio.
Well, you kind of hit the highlights, what I would consider career highlights. But I guess the thing it's amazing the paths that we take, right? Whether it's life or whether it's driving or our careers definitely take different paths. So all of the things that you mentioned there in motorsports, except for Pro Charger, were done in my free time. I had full-time jobs. I started working in marketing and advertising firms right out of college. And actually, my very first track event was 1987 at Road America. When I was living in Minneapolis at that time, and I got hooked up with a bunch of guys that said, "Come on, we're going down to Wisconsin to this racetrack." Oh, okay. And a slippery slope there we went. So the Northwood Shelby guys up there in Wisconsin, they're the ones responsible for the decadence that's now become my career of managing a racetrack. So I drove my first track event at Road America, nothing like starting at the deep end. And not only was it Road America, but it was a 2-day event at that time, 2-day event. And it was pouring rain for at least a day and a half of that. I don't think we got many drag sessions. So my very first track event was Road America in the pouring rain. How I didn't expire myself was only thanks to the big man upstairs. He was watching out for me. But what an experience to be able to go drive your car, your personal car that I was autocrossing at the time. I actually started autocrossing clear back when I was in high school. But then, to be able to drive your car on a professional racetrack. So that then got me exploring the options of doing additional driving. But my writing career actually started while I was still in college. My very first article that was published was in November of 1984 in Super Ford magazine, back when it was published on John Paradise's kitchen table in Paradise Falls, New York, I believe was where the magazine was out of at that time. But that was my very first article, was in 1984 as a college kid. Wow, I can write and get paid for this stuff. Even back then, I got a little bit of pay for doing freelance writing. So I was still going to college at that time when I started writing. So like I said, went out, got a job, got married to my beautiful wife, Lori, who is a saint. She's earned her sainthood numerous times for putting up with me and all of my passions and my experiences of professional life and this hobby, passion, now profession of motorsports. So couldn't do it without my family. Lori, love you. Thank you. But from a driving standpoint, like I said, I had full-time jobs when I started Track Guys Performance Driving events. And actually, even before I started my school, I did the feasibility study for what would then become Mid-America Motorsports, or Mid-America Motorplex, the track that was built just south of Council Bluffs, Iowa. And I got to know those guys because I had made numerous trips to Omaha to talk with these two crazy Mustang guys that were at Project Industries back in the day, named Ken Brown and Paul Brown. So Kenny Brown and Project Industries, which then later became Kenny Brown, he was building his SCCA winning Mustangs. Actually was at Brainerd, Minnesota when Celine was still running those Mustangs, and got to see those Mustangs on track. And then a bunch of my Minnesota guys, when I moved back to Iowa, we'd made a trip out to Omaha and visited Project Industries. And I believe that was the first time I'd met Paul Brown, was there at the shop. Of course, met Kenny because I think he was at Brainerd that weekend that we were up there, or that we went to the Trans Am SCCA endurance racing. So actually Kenny was the one that connected me into, I heard there's this racetrack that's looking at being built down in southwestern Iowa. So I actually did a feasibility study for the owner of the track, or the guy that was building that track, and a feasibility study. And we can talk about that more, about what it takes to build a racetrack. But basically, can this area support a racetrack? And so I did a lot of the legwork for that and presented him, I think, with about a 10 or 15 page report on the number of sports car clubs in the region, the different clubs, the BMW, the Porsche, the Audis, all the different driving groups. And keep in mind, this was in early 2000, when the internets didn't have near the wealth of information that they do now. So a lot of it was phone calling and connecting and newsletters. You remember newsletters? Those were those things that were printed on paper. So as that track was getting built, I had been doing a bunch of instructing. I actually started my instructing career in about 1997. I had been going down, I was living in Des Moines at the time, and the closest racetrack to us at that time, hey, there's Craig Sculla from Northwood Shelby right there. Hey, Craig. Just overlooking at the comments. Topeka was the closest track. So I got to going down there and instructing with the Kansas City Porsche Club, the Kansas City BMW Club. There was an Audi group that was running. So I was making the trip from Des Moines to Topeka probably 6 times a summer, because it was a quick 4-hour drive from Des Moines down to Topeka. So that's where I really got my instructor wings under me, was instructing for all those groups. And then I got tangled up with a group called, at that time, I think Bobby Rahal was still involved, but it was Track Time.
Yep.
And I believe that's probably where I first met Brad. Probably was at one of those Track Time events that you guys were at, because I know Kenny and Carrie and Rich would always have a car at one of those events, and probably some editor like, Jim Campazano or Evan Smith or somebody like that in the car. And so here I was instructing at the same events that Kenny and you guys were at, getting some editorial coverage and letting some editors try not to crash your car. I mean, enjoy your car out on a racetrack. So, but so it's been a long and winding road. So I met a gentleman who had purchased a 2000 Cobra R, and he was actually the flagman at the Northwood Shelby event. Fred Fetzer. I don't know where Fred's at nowadays, but Fred essentially said, I want you to instruct me. So he hired me as his private driving coach. And I put together kind of a whole itinerary. We need to go here. Here's the track we need to go, because you're going to learn this. Here's the track we're going to go to. So I drug Fred all over the country, and he was showing up with his 2000 Cobra R. And at that time, I had a SN95 Mustang with a 351 Windsor in it. That like putting the power down really well, exiting the current turns, right, Joe Johnson? So I was instructing Fred all around the country, tons of seat time, both in his car and my car. And then so Fred, because he had purchased that 2000 Cobra R, had a chance to go to the Bondurant School of Performance Driving. So Fred said, let me treat you. You've been busting your butt, not puking in my car. So we went down to the Bondurant School in September of 2001. For those of you that have been around a while, what else happened in September of 2001? 9/11. In history, we all find these events that delineate a passage of time, and none of us will forget where we were at on 2011 or on 9/11. And so, Bondurant's calling us. Are you guys still coming? Are you still coming? Because at that time, the airports all got shut down. So I believe we flew into Phoenix about the second day that the airports were back open. So as I'm going through all the hassle of flying back then after 9/11, I got to thinking, here I'm going to this professional school. I'd read about Bondurant, I'd read all the articles. At that time, you didn't see many videos because there weren't that many videos out there. But I told myself, if I can sit in this if I can sit in a Bondurant school as a student and predict everything that we're going to talk about next and how we're going to progress as drivers, I'm going to start my own driving school. Because people have been kind of, you know, prodding me to start my own driving school. So we get down there and go through the school, and sure enough, I was able to sit there as a student. You know, even as an instructor, I always tried to put myself in a student role, because that's how you continue to learn and grow. So I sat there and I go, all right, now we're going to talk about vision. All right, next thing we're going to talk about is vision. What are you looking at while you're on the track? Okay, got that. Now we're going to talk about weight transfer. Now we're going to talk about car rotation or heel toe. So basically, I didn't have their script, but I got their gist, their train of thought. So that was the start of Track Guys Performance Driving Schools. That winter, I wrote kind of my business proposal, my business prospectus, my procedures, how I wanted to do it. And at that time, a fellow instructor, Todd Zekas, out of Omaha, he was interested in starting a school. So he was my original partner with Track Guys Performance Driving Events. And we launched in March of 2002, because it would have been after September and December of 01. And then we actually put on the first driving school at MAM, at Mid-America Motorplex. As a matter of fact, the track wasn't even done. We show up there, the paddock is gravel. They were actually paving the paddock while we were there. The concrete apex curbs and track out curbs were open concrete forms. And, you know, so as I'm doing my track inspections, like I was talking to the track managers, what's this? We've got open ditches right along the edge of the track with wood and metal spikes. You don't need that part of the track anyway. Well, yes, you do when it's the apex. So we put on a very sketchy but successful very first Track Guys event at Mid-America Motorplex. It's now known as Raceway Park of the Midlands, but that was my first track event as Track Guys Performance Driving Events at the track south of Council Bluffs. So
Wow,
that's what started
cool.
Track Guys. Yeah.
Yeah, Joe Johnson left a comment. Jeff and I chased each other at Mid-America Raceway many a times. So
yeah, I believe that was the Mustang Club of Iowa. We were doing events over there. You know, I was doing the education. I was a member of the Mustang Club of Central Iowa, so they would rent the track. I would do the driving school for them. But yeah, Joe Johnson, when he had his red 2000 Cobra R, I was in my SN95, and Gene Borton out of St. Louis had built an AI or AIX Mustang, and that thing was an animal. I think it had it had so many different suspension components and systems under it, but that car was an animal. I get some great photos of the three of us nose to tail going through some of the turns. So yeah, Joe, that was a good time down there at chasing you around, man.
So again, everybody, don't forget about the today's giveaway. So we are giving away a race or an MPH T-shirt. I'll call it Race MPH now. We'll call it something new. Motorsport Park Hastings T-shirt. All you have to do is comment "I love MPH." And we will pick a winner toward the end of the show. We've got several people that have also joined us and left some comments. Charles Phil Jolly, thanks for joining us today. We've got Steve Smith joining us. We've got Jack Siebert Jr. We also have Eric Hodson. Let's see. We've got
Randy Cotton. Randy Cotton's one of our students.
Yep,
he's a big supporter here. And I just see Jeff Jacobucci.
Yeah, Craig Scala as well. I think you know him. You mentioned him earlier. Jeff Jacobucci, I see that he made it home safe from Daytona, and the weather was great while you were here, Jeff. So good for you. I saw some pictures of you doing tech out at the track, and I thought that was cool. You've obviously got the coolest job in the paddock, or the most fun, I guess, at times. Anyway, so thank you everyone for joining us. Again, if you're just tuning in, I'm Brad Grissom from Kenny Brown Performance. We've got Jeff Lacina, General Manager at Motorsport Park Hastings with us. And if you're just tuning in, be sure to hit the like button, hit the heart, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button, hit all the buttons to make sure that you stay abreast of what's happening and what's new on all of our different channels. So Jeff, you told us a little bit, I guess, about how you got into track operations. Obviously, you spent a lot of time around racetracks. You did feasibility studies for racetracks. So I guess that's where you're at today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about MPH? Tell us about Motorsport Park Hastings. Has it been around for a long time? Give us all the details. And I think you also have some images and things that you want to share. So kind of lead the way there, and I'll lend a hand here in the studio.
Sure. Appreciate it, Brad. Yeah. Talk to you about getting into performance driving and started my own school. And then in 2003, I was hired by a group running the SVTOA, the Special Vehicle Teams Operations, or Special Vehicle Team Owners Association. I'll get it right. And so we were putting on events all around the country, and that's really where I met and infected a lot of people with the performance driving bug. So let's talk about Motorsport Park Hastings. I'll see if I can. Right now, it doesn't look like here. Let's see if I can. All right.
Sorry about that. Little technical difficulty here in the studio, folks. It wouldn't be a good live Cars and Coffee show unless we had an issue. So Jeff, there you go. Let me add that to the stream real quick, and then you can take control, and you should be able to thumb through the images here. Let's try it out. Okay, there we go. Perfect.
All right. So what we're seeing here is an aerial view from a drone. That's actually one of our go-kart racers has a video drone. So this, I believe, was November of 2021, right after we had repaved MPH, Motorsport Park Hastings. And for those of you that haven't been here, we are in Hastings, Nebraska, which is sort of in the south central part of the state, I guess is the best way to describe it. If you know where Grand Island is on Interstate 80, we are just about 15 minutes straight south of Grand Island. We're on US Highway 6. I'm looking out the window, and there's US Highway 6 right out. It borders the Highway 6 is over here. I don't know if you can see, but it borders the north side of our property. So we are looking straight east in this image. So Hastings is 100 miles west of Lincoln. It's 280 miles to Kansas City. Kansas City is south and east of us, and we're 405 miles to Denver. So Jacobucci, no excuses. Come on. So we're sort of in the middle of. People say we're in the middle of nowhere, and I said no, we're in the middle of everything. Because literally we are pretty close to being in the center of the country. So everyone can get to us. There are roads that get to us. So if you haven't been here, you're missing out. So what we're looking at here is an aerial view of MPH. We are a 2.15 mile, 13 turn club level road course. Our track was designed by Alan Wilson of Alan Wilson Motorsports. Alan has recently retired, but has a very capable young engineer who's taken over Alan's book of business, if you will, from a racetrack design standpoint. So the track was concepted in 2003, 4, 5. Construction started, and the first event was Labor Day weekend of 2006. So the track has been here since 2006. And I met George Anderson, who many of you, if any of you have been here to Motorsport Park Hastings, even before I was the general manager, many of you met George Anderson. George was the manager, but George was also the godfather. I call him the godfather of MPH. It was his idea and his concept to build a track here in Hastings, Nebraska. And he found business people who were willing to invest and businesses that were willing to invest and enough friends. And he was able to put together a business plan and to build a track here in Hastings, Nebraska. So hats off to George the Godfather Anderson for having the vision here. So, but there's a lot that goes into building a racetrack, and we can talk about that in depth more. I know that's some of the stuff later coming on. But what we're looking at here, we're looking straight east. Also, what's unique here at Hastings is here's our paddock area. We don't have any permanent garages, but we have a covered, what we call a raceport area. It's basically 16 covered garage stalls right here in the area. This building is our timing and scoring. This is our restroom and shower trailer or shower building here. And then we've got a garage where we store our track vehicles in down here. I am actually broadcasting today from our clubhouse. We've got a very nice clubhouse here at MPH. It overlooks turn 13. We do a lot of drivers meetings in here. We do our driver schools, our schools. We have classroom down in the basement here at the clubhouse. We got a finished basement in the clubhouse, complete with a pool table, shuffleboard, card table that sees some pretty. There's lots of activities that go on in the basement on a given weekend as well. So we got the clubhouse here as well. But across the way, MPH is a little unique. Actually quite unique for racetracks around the country in that you can own property here at the racetrack. So what you're seeing over here are what we call our garage condos, or some tracks maybe call them a garage mahal. But instead of having a cabin at the lake or a house on a golf course, you can have a garage condo here at the racetrack. So what you're seeing over here is our condo development, or our garage condo area. It's a gated area, complete with a security keypad. But we've got businesses that operate out of here. A race team used to operate out of this one. They've now moved. They've moved a couple hours north here to be closer to family. I actually live here at the track in one of these garage condos, because part of my job as the manager is to promote the entire facility, not just the racetrack, but also the garage condos. Plus, when I moved up here to take this job, I needed a place to live in Hastings, Nebraska. So the track ownership group here was very generous and in their offer to get me up here, to get me employed, but also provide me a place to live. And also that's where the track's office is now. I converted one of the bedrooms in the condos to the track's office. So I actually overlook turn 6 and turn 5. So any of you that follow me on social media, a lot of times at the end of the day, I sit on my deck with a beverage and a sandwich or something, and wind up my day looking at the track that I just spent my entire day working on or watching other people have fun. So I will say from a professional, from a professional, it's a little challenging to live and work at your job. So, but I get in town to the post office and to the bank and to go see sponsors. And occasionally my family still lives in Olathe. So occasionally I get down to see my wife and 2 sons and my daughter who are in the Kansas City area. Or my older son, Grant, used to be the assistant manager up here. So he actually comes up and works for me on some race weekends. So.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool. So do you have some more images in this?
Yeah, let's so here's a track map that I put out to a lot of different groups, because everyone, has a track map. And I've been driving tracks long enough that I learned some tracks, before we had Google Earth and before we had YouTube. It was, how do you learn the track? Just getting a map. Hallett down in Oklahoma, I actually learned from a T-shirt. I bought a T-shirt at Hallett that had a track map on it. And that's how I learned learned the layout down at Hallett in Oklahoma. But so this is the map that I provide with a lot of our groups that come here. The clubhouse is located over here. It's not on this map. This is the functional part of the racetrack. But here you can see our layout. We're kind of a unique layout. I've now driven or instructed on 99 different racetracks across North America. Each track has a different personality, different characteristics. MPH is no different than that, other than I tell people we've got a horsepower section. We've got some nice long straights where you can really let the horsepower go. And if you've got aero on your car, aero is very helpful down here in turn 3 because that's a very high speed turn. And then we get into the center section of the track, which is very tight and technical. And the lighter weight cars that don't have as much mass to get around the track, they do very well out here. So a Miata and a prepared Mustang, or Miata and a Mustang, their lap times aren't that different because we've got turn 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, all in that pack that kind of slows the flow. And then after you get through turn 13, then we start to stretch out again. So it's fun watching cars. They sort of accordion in the center section where the heavier cars have a more difficult time getting through it, where the lighter weight cars can get through that section. So we've got a high speed horsepower section, and we've got a tighter technical section of the track as well. So
yeah, cool. So I love the track layout. It's got a little bit of everything.
Yeah. So what we're going to do here, my buddy Eric Hodson, you know, unfortunately, you would think that working at a racetrack, I get lots of lap times. Well, unfortunately, no. I'm usually very busy helping others get their lap time. So this is my buddy Eric Hodson, who I used to work with at John Deere, and actually got him coming to performance driving events. This is data from his catalyst unit that he's got in his mostly stock 2017 Mustang GT Performance Pack. I believe he's even running street tires here. But Eric was good enough to share some video with me. I believe this is from the NASA event that we host in August. I think this is HPDE Group 3, I believe, that he's running in. So you saw we have a very long pit road. Eric's now on the track. What I'll do is I'll just talk you through. Have we got any audio, Brad? I'm not hearing any audio, or do you have it muted?
Let me check here. No, everything's good.
So that was turn 3 that he went through. And this is the out lap, warm-up lap, because you see there's no data. Track is still yellow. There's our yellow flag. He's coming up on turn 4. Turn 4, the traditional right-hand 90-degree turn, probably the most traditional turn out here. Turn 5 and 6 are connected. Turn 5, you let the car sweep to the left, come back around for turn 6. So from a teaching standpoint, that's a fun track to teach, is turns 5 and 6. 7, off camber, crest of the hill. Turn 8, slightly downhill. So again, we're just on the out lap, so everybody warming up. You see, I don't know if that's an Audi or what that's in front of Hodson. We're coming into turn 9 and 10. Again, 2 connected turns. You see an apex there. That was 9. This is turn 10. A short straight, a good horsepower straight between 10 and 11. 11 is a hyper late apex. Wait out there, wait out there. There's your apex cone, because you want to stay on that side of the track, because turn 12 is right there. Now there's the condos over to the left. We're coming up to turn 13 now. Turn 13 is a double turn in. One turn in, really crank it for our second turn in. That's turn 13. So turn 13 is a very challenging turn. Green flag is out. So now we're, Eric, that was just kind of his warm-up lap here. Turn 1, I see somebody's already biffed the apex cone in turn 1. Well done, well done. Turn 2, downhill, increasing radius, 180-degree turn. You can really feed the power in there. Now is where we're building the horsepower section of the track, letting the car have some legs here. A little bit of a bend, a little bit of a kink. Tap on the brakes, get the car turned, set, get up on that apex curbing. Use as much of the track as possible. We're watching that silver car in front of us. He's going to reward us here in a little bit. Here comes our braking markers for turns 4, 5, or turns 4. Watch the flag station over here on our driver's right, because there's a yellow flag right there, because Mr. Audi or whatever that is spun on his very first lap. Well done, driver. And Eric did a nice job slowing down, getting the car under control, back to speed. So we're going to ride here. We'll let Eric finish this lap, turn 8. Really use the curbing, turn 8. Let the car come all the way out, driver's right. Turn 9 Turn 9 is not a throwaway, but there's multiple entrance points, because really what's important is getting the car rotated through turn 10 so you can get on the accelerator and accelerate out of turn 10 down to 11. And then 11, 12 takes some patience, but you can't be slow. That's sort of a crest of the hill, so the car unloads a little bit as you go through turn 12. Now turn 13 really comes up on you quickly. Here's our double turn in. But for one apex, the sooner you can get on the throttle, the sooner you can make this straightaway disappear. Start-finish line is right there. And I didn't see what Eric's lap time was on that lap, because the window is
cool. So that's a lap. That's a lap around Motorsport Park Hastings at speed, then, I guess. So that's really cool.
Yeah, there's my buddy Eric. Eric, I know he's on the stream, but Eric's been a big help. He comes up. He's one of our instructors now up here at MPH. But this was actually from our Mustang Roundup event that we had in September, and he finished second in the stock class. So Eric, thanks, buddy. Appreciate all the help, man.
Well, cool. So that's cool. It's always good to see some good track video like that. I'm sure that a lot of our viewers have not been to MPH. So that's gives you a really good overview of the track itself, both from an aerial standpoint and from behind the behind the steering wheel, I guess. So anyway, let me change the view here. So that's good stuff. We've got some other people who've commented. Frank Safranik has joined us. He says the classic Wooma.
Wooma, Frank. Yeah. Come on, Brad. You got to do it. Brad. Come on. Wooma.
Wooma. And so Eric commented that that's not his fastest lap. Of course, that's what they all say. And he says the Roundup is a blast. And so I'll go off script here a little bit. I do want to talk about in depth about racetracks themselves, but since you mentioned it and Eric commented how much fun the Roundup is, why don't you tell us about the Fast Forward and Mustang Roundup that you do each year? I know that you've done it for 2 or 3 years at least now, maybe, and that's going to be an ongoing thing, and that's something special that I believe you put together. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, our Fast Forward and Mustang Roundup, 2 or 3 years. I think this is going to be our 14th year, Brad.
Oh, wow. Okay.
and actually, the reason it came into being is one of our owners here at the track, his son, works for Ford Motor Company. And he was actually, I believe, the program manager on the Boss 302 Mustang when it came out in 2011. So Todd had a bunch of friends that had purchased Boss 302 Mustangs, and they said, well, let's just all get together at the track. So they found a time. I think their first event might have been in July. I don't recall. But that's how it got started. Like many things do, just a group of guys getting together to share their passion and have some fun and putting on a Mustang event. And of course, me being a Mustang guy, I always tried to make the Mustang Roundup, but a lot of times I was off doing either my own thing with track guys or going to another event, in my free time doing that. But I finally made the first trip. The first time I was here to Hastings was during the 2012 One Lap of America. I had always wanted to get up here, but believe it or not, I hadn't had a chance to make it up here. So when Evan Smith and I were teamed up on the One Lap of America, driving a brand new Roush RS3 Mustang, the only tracks in that year, in that 2012, that I hadn't been to was the short track at Brainerd, the club or the sportsman track at Brainerd, and Motorsport Park Hastings. So my very first time here was competing in the 2012 One Lap of America. And once I got here, once I pulled into the place, I just fell in love with the facility, the track, the clubhouse, the garage condos. Of course, George Anderson was the manager at that time, and George is Mr. Personality, makes everyone feel like they're a longtime friend and makes all the racers feel welcome. So after I got involved, came here at one lap, then of course, boom, we had to go to Brainerd, that night. But I then offered my services to George to help grow the Mustang Roundup. So George started hiring me as the lead instructor, and then kind of the race director to help the Mustang event grow. And at that time, with track guys, we were working a lot with Muscle Mustang, Kenny Brown Performance. We were doing Boss 302 reunions at all of our events. Texas World Speedway, I believe, was our first one, and we had 20-some Boss Mustangs, and these cars were brand new. Keep in mind, these cars are brand new, and we had 20-some Boss 302s parked on the front straight for a photo shoot. So that's actually how I started getting involved, was getting Boss 302s involved. And Doug Soderquist commented that, oh yeah, Gary Gasper met at MPH with a brand new Boss 302 and decided it'd be fun to run. Would be fun to run. So yeah, Gary Gasper was up out of South Dakota, and so he was the first couple that were others. So but yeah, they decided it'd be fun to bring others to the Mustang Roundup. So the first year that I got involved, we had my buddy Del Hughes, who was my business manager at Track Guys. We had a very good marketing program. We had a good database of Mustang owners from around the country, around the Midwest. So we just started inviting people, and we were able to grow the Mustang Roundup significantly, I think in 13, 14, and 15, when the Boss 302 was really coming out, and then the GT 500. So anyway, it's now evolved into, I call it the most unique Mustang event that you're going to go to. We've got, if you sign up, I haven't got registration open yet, but if you sign up by April 17th, which is the Mustang's birthday, you get track time on Thursday afternoon. So we have a bunch of people that sign up early. We come in Thursday afternoon for registration and tech. We have track time for those people that sign up by April 17th. And then basically it's a time trial event. We break the cars into different groups by their level of equipment, stock, modified, race car, or outlaw, for the guys that just, are everything, supercharger, slicks, whatever they want to do. But we find a class for you, and you're competing against your fellow drivers, basically for a time trial or hot lap competition. So we do that on the full 2.15 mile track. We also have a configuration here that turns the track into a 1 mile track. We have an additional turn that we call Flamingo turn, and it turns it into a 1 mile configuration. So we do a short course shootout on the 1 mile. So that counts for your scoring. And then I believe Friday night, we also do our grudge drag racing out in the front straight. So that counts for points for the awards. And then Saturday night at the dinner, we all get together, lie about how fast we were, and then pass out awards to people that really were fast on the timing system. So it's a great event. I don't know what there is about the event. As the event organizer, it's always hard to put your finger on it, but it's just the camaraderie, the fellowship that we have here in the paddock, the fun that we have here in the paddock. We've got garage condos that can be rented. We've got a whole family, the Dury family. I don't know if the Durys are on, but they come up out of Nebraska or out of Missouri. They rent a condo over there. I had an instructor party in my deck last year, so it's a good time. So it is September. Let me pull up my date here. I don't have my sheet in front of me with that information, but it's in September this year. It's always in September. September 14, 15, 16, and 17. September 14, 15, 16, 17.
And so is that information is on the website as well, I'm assuming?
It will be.
Okay. The website again is
racemph.com. But we also use Motorsport Reg as our online registration event. So if you're on Motorsport Reg, you can search Motorsport Park Hastings, and you'll find all of our events there. But I will have it posted, and when I'm working on a save the date flyer to get out on email, so people that have been at the event before we'll get the schedule and know when we're going to be having it. But yeah, Motorsport Reg is what we use for our registration events. So I see.
I just posted the link to the website as well, so everyone should be able to see that, whether you're viewing on YouTube or whether you're viewing on Facebook. And on Facebook, we are on the Kenny Brown Performance Facebook page, but we're also on the Speed Therapy Society Facebook page. So remember, if you're commenting from the Speed Therapy Society Facebook page, you have to provide special permission to Facebook before we can see your name when you do leave a comment. And don't forget about our free t-shirt giveaway, which is coming up. We'll do that here toward the end of the broadcast. We've got a few more questions for Jeff. I want to remind you, if you're viewing on Facebook, please give us a like or a heart-shaped wrench. If you're on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel and click the bell for notifications. So again, today's t-shirt giveaway, you have to leave a comment of I love MPH. Again, that's I love MPH. And you can give us a little heart-shaped wrench, and Jeff will really appreciate that. So we're gonna collect the number of people who leave a comment, and we're gonna pick a number between 1 and whatever that ending number is, and that will be the person that wins today's giveaway. So Jeff, my background as a child, I grew up kind of in the asphalt paving business.
You are sick. That explains a lot, Brad. That explains a lot.
Yeah, it drives my wife crazy if we're on the road somewhere and we go through a construction zone and they're doing paving. I love the smell of that, the tack oil, and everything that really goes into it. Asphalt paving is a process. I started shoveling asphalt, and then I moved up to running what's called a lute. And eventually I got to drive the paver, and I got to drive the roller. So when I was 16 years old, I was driving a 60-ton roller, paving county roads in Morgan County, Indiana. And so I know a lot about it. And for whatever reason, I love it in a sick and twisted kind of way. So, but what's always intrigued me, and we did do some racetrack paving in my younger days as well. But why don't you talk to us? I know that at Hastings, you just repaved the track surface there, and so that would have been the first time that track has been resurfaced. And I think it'd be interesting for our viewers to learn a little bit about what goes in to the track surface. There's a lot of layers. There's a lot of science that goes into paving a racetrack. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. And I see Joe Johnson said he had to leave to go attend David Kagan's memorial service. So Joe, if you're still on, peace, brother. Thanks for being here. Yeah. Let me see if I can pull up a screen here. I've been, I don't know if you call it blessed, but I've had the opportunity now to be directly involved and supervise the repaving of not one, but 2 different racetracks. But the most recent was here at MPH. As you mentioned, Brad, people just don't understand and appreciate everything that goes into building a racetrack, but specifically the paving. But repaving a track is a different animal than constructing a track. So what I want to do here is I'll see if I can pull up my screen here and share some images from our repaving process. Mr. Brad, are we sharing my screen now, or we got the Warner Construction?
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
So as Brad mentioned, the track, or as I mentioned, the track was originally built in 2006. And the George and his team and the ownership group did a great job of maintaining the track, but there just comes a time when asphalt wears out. Especially here in the upper Midwest, we've got freeze-thaw cycles that take a lot of durability and take a lot of out of it. Plus, asphalt just wears out from being driven on. And so when I came up here in July of 2021, I started here in July of 21, the owners had already made the commitment to repave the track. And so I had been directly involved with repaving the track at Topeka in 2016. So it's sort of like, yeah, I've been there. I've been part of that process. So over the course of that first summer, we met with Warner Construction, and we actually the current ownership group actually sought a couple different bids on repaving the track, but Warner Construction was the one that won the bid, and they were the ones that paved the track. That paved the track originally back in 2006. And Phil Warner, owner of the company, and who the company is, his family company, is a serious car guy himself. So it's cool that the company that originally paved the track was going to repave the track, and the owner of the company is a hardcore car guy himself. So I knew we were in good hands, and these folks, they do paving jobs all around the state of Nebraska and are premier pavers. They do a fantastic job. So but when you're repaving a track, you don't tear out everything. You start with what you've got. You know, a racetrack is like a house. You have to have a good foundation on which to build. Well, the foundation of the track here at Hastings was in excellent condition because we've got proper drainage. The ownership and the management had done a good job of maintaining the track, taking care of any cracks, sealing them, because as you know, Brad, water will destroy asphalt. So you have to keep your asphalt surface tight so that water doesn't get in it. So the part of the repaving project, the first thing they do is they come out and they repair the cracks that exist in the track. And it's sort of counterintuitive to what you think, because basically in a repave, you're milling off or you're taking off one surface and putting on a new surface. But if you've got cracks, that crack might go down deeper than what you're going to mill off. So if you're just milling the cracked up surface, you're just going to expose a deeper crack underneath it. So the first part of repaving is they actually come out and they cut all of the cracks that had developed on the track, and they were cutting them 4 or 5 inches deep to get down into the base course of our asphalt. So that's what we're seeing here. We're actually looking west on the front straight, and this seam that they cut is actually one of the old paving seams. One of the old seams had separated enough where it had developed a crack. So the first thing they do is they come in and they cut all the old cracks. So that's the first part of repaving. And we had a go-kart race on October 11th, and they were bringing in equipment on that Sunday afternoon, and that Monday morning they were out on the track starting the repaving process. So kudos to Warner. They as soon as our season was done, they were out here. So here's what it looks like after the crack has been cut, and you'll see the black tar in front of it up here. They then spray it with tack oil. Tack oil is essentially an asphalt or a petroleum-based tar glue, because asphalt is essentially a petroleum product with aggregate, with sand and gravel in it. So essentially, after the cracks were cut and cleaned, they would come through and then drop asphalt into the cracks. Everything that had been done. They had this machine and they had another machine. I don't know if I got a photo here, but as you can see, it's pretty much a hand process of dropping asphalt into those cracks. And then after the asphalt had been put in, they would come along with the small roller and compact it. The whole thing here is, we're reintegrating, we're developing a new tight surface on the surface of the track by cutting out the cracks, putting new asphalt in, and compacting it. So essentially, if we weren't going to be repaving, this is how some tracks, or even how some city streets maintain their streets. So they cut those cracks, fill them, compact them, and then drive on them. But what had happened to our surface is the old aggregate, the old bitmus, or the asphalt product had lost its ability to hold on to the aggregate. So you drive over this track with a high horsepower car, and you were literally pulling the old aggregate out of the surface and launching it into the air or into the vehicle behind you, or essentially just landing on the track. So then you're getting sand and gravel and aggregate on your surface. So basically our old asphalt had aged out. So that's what brought about the repaving process. So after all the cracks have been paved and compacted, now it's time to do the milling. So this is bringing in the big monster milling machine that essentially grinds off however thick of asphalt course that they're going to be taking off. And in our case, they came out and milled off about 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches of the original surface. That's what's called the driving course, or the wear surface on a street. So that's the process that they're doing here, is this big monster machine milling the surface and loading it into trucks. And for those of you who are really curious, asphalt is the most recycled product in the world. There's your drinking trivia, that because asphalt is not a chemical process, it's a temperature process. Everything that's used in asphalt can be recycled and repurposed. So these millings that are getting loaded, Warner took them back, and they've got a pile of millings, and those millings will get screened and washed and could be used in another repaving process. And that's what's called RAP, recycled asphalt product. It depends on how much, what the specifications are for the job, but that recycled asphalt product can get used in other jobs. So all that milling gets hauled off of our property back to their facility. So another part of the paving project is, where's all this truck traffic going on your property? How are they getting onto and off of the track and off of the property? So here's a little video clip I've got going showing the process. The big milling machine loading into Sorry if that blew everybody's ears out if you're listening on headphones, but we got the audio to work. So there's the process of milling. The big vehicle behind, that's being towed behind, is a water tank. It feeds water into the milling process to keep it cool and to keep the dust down. This milling machine, once they get started, they want trucks. So what we're seeing here, this is actually taken from the balcony of one of the condos. The milling machine is still operating, but they're refueling the machine on the go as they're continuing to mill. So it's quite the process, quite the train that you see. And yeah, as you're driving down the highway, you might see this, but this is a chance where it's right in front of you, and so you really get to know the equipment and understand the process involved, and all these operators, this is what they do for a living. So they take a huge amount of pride in their job, whether they're grinding asphalt, but they make sure that they're consistent level, doing the right job, and not messing up the facility and not damaging anything while they're doing it. After the track is milled, then they come through and they clean it. And you want to talk about a dirty process. This is turn 5, but essentially they come out with a sweeper. And fortunately, this operator is in a climate controlled cab, because it is a dirty process.
Wow. That's unbelievable.
I'm going to go back a photo. You'll see a bunch of dirt piled up along the edge of the track. Here's another thing that I learned down when I repaved the track at Topeka. Over time, the grass along the edge of the track builds up, just like your yard builds up thatch. Over time, you notice where your grass might have been below your driveway or your sidewalk. Now it's taller than your sidewalk or your driveway. Same thing happens on the track. All the aggregate, all the rubber, all the broken car parts and motorcycle parts and go-kart parts end up along the edge of the track. Well, water is the worst thing you can have on asphalt. So essentially, the track was lower than the ground surrounding it. So as part of the repaving process, they actually came in with a grader and bladed off the edge, moved all this dirt off the edge of the track so that when we put the new asphalt on, the asphalt is now taller than the edge of the track. So that means water won't stand on the asphalt. And there's our grading process right there. The water won't stand or pond on the asphalt. It will run off the track. So that is what, preserves the life of the asphalt. Also prevents you from having to drive through puddles while you're driving on the track, because you want the water to get off the asphalt as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So they actually came out and graded along the edge of the track. So we've done our patch, we've done our crack repairs, we've done our milling process, we've done our cleaning, we've done our blading. Dun, dun, dun. Now it's time to put on the new asphalt. So what kind of machine is this, Brad? How do you pronounce that?
Well, it's just a paver.
It's a paver. It's a Vogele. It's a Vogele. Actually, I think from Germany. Warner Construction purchased a brand new paver just for doing, well, not just for doing our track. They purchased a brand new paver, and this was the paver's first job, was doing our track. We had reps from the factory. We had reps from Germany. We had reps from North America. We had the dealer. It was an entire fleet of people coming down to set up this very expensive and very high-tech piece of equipment. This was its first paving job. So you'll see a lot of people standing around. We're not actually actively paving. This is the day getting the paver actually set up to kind of do its first paving, because there's so many adjustments that they have to do. And again, these guys are professionals. This is what they do for a living. I'm an equipment geek. I love technology. I love equipment. I just stand back and go, golly, would you look at that? I mean, it's just amazing, the amount of technology that's now available to pavers. Probably a little more sophisticated than what you ran, huh, Brad?
Yeah, just a bit.
Just a bit. But so here they're getting the screed set up. Asphalt comes in up front here, goes into the machine, and it gets brought back to the screed, augered off across the screed. What's cool about it, our track was originally paved in 3 different paving passes. Well, what that meant is there were basically 2 seams around the track. There's a seam from one paving pass joins the next. Well, the new equipment is capable of paving in a wider pass. So the old track was paved in 3 passes. This repaving, we were able to accomplish in 2 passes. So that saves us time. The same amount of material is going down, but the big savings is time. And now I've only got 1 seam on the track, and that's in the center where the 2 paving passes come together. So that will pay dividends as this surface ages, because now I've only got 1 seam to worry about, the 2 parts of the pavement that pull apart from each other. But I'll show you some other things that they did to ensure the paving integrity of their operation. So we were able to repave in just 2 passes. So now we are paving. You can see up here our semis bringing the hot mix, bringing the asphalt material out, just choosing the asphalt that we're going to put down on the surface. I mentioned Phil Warner, owner of Warner Construction. He had me drive around town and look at different streets that they had paved, because there were different mixes of asphalt, and they actually did a core for us. They kind of created their own recipe Phil had in mind for what he wanted to do here for the surface. So this is very similar to street pavement, but we used a heavier polymer or a heavier additive to it, amendment to the asphalt mix to add some flexibility to it, but also, to tighten up the surface, because we are a racetrack. We're not a street we don't have to worry about winter traction like they do on a street. We don't operate in the winter. So we can be a little tighter, a little smoother surface than a street in town. So this is, I believe they're paving coming through turn 5. I shot close to 1,300 images of the repaving process. So lots of, so what Warner would do is they would dump the asphalt onto the track. This big yellow machine is a transfer machine that picks the asphalt up off the track.
I bet that smells great.
Oh, that smells so good. And there's your roller. There's Brad. There's young Brad back there running that roller.
Yeah.
Oh, look. Hey, a red Mustang off at turn 4. Imagine that. No, so that kind of gives you an idea. And you notice that they were going very slowly. When they're doing streets, they're dealing with road closures and traffic, and everybody's under a deadline. Well, the only deadline we were facing here was Mother Nature, because we're mid-October here at the track, and but they still wanted to do it. The slower the paving machine works, the better job it does of laying down the asphalt. The screed does a better job of spreading it out. So they can adjust their speed according to the job. But these guys are professional. They took a huge amount of pride in the job that they were doing here on the track, because this asphalt's going to be here for the next 12, 15, 16 years. So it's something they take pride in. So Brad, did that bring back lots of memories?
Yeah, it did. And it's interesting to see, and for other folks to kind of see the process here. But yeah, it brings back a ton of memories. And in that last image, you had a really nice picture of the curbing there. I guess when they were repaving it, did they leave the curbs in that were already existing on the track?
Yeah, here's the thing about curbs. The track is asphalt, the curbs are concrete. So the curbs are added later after the track is put down. So basically, when they removed 1.5 inches of material, they had to come back with 1.5 inches of material so that the new track surface lined up with the curbs. So essentially, that's our grade, or that's our elevation of the track surface. So you can see here, that they've got the asphalt right up to the base of the curbs. And as this roller comes along, he will roll that edge right down to it. So so basically the elevation, people are saying, well, add some banking, add some elevation, add some this to it. The curbs dictate the surface of the track. The only way you can change the actual elevation of the track is you would have to, add additional asphalt. And then if it's in an area where the curb comes across it, you'd have to tear that concrete curbing out and repave it or relay it so that it comes up to the surface of the track. Because obviously you don't want the curbing being too high above the track, because then it holds water. You don't want to be too low below the edge of the track, because then water will sit on your curbing and get down into the seam between it. So you want the surface of the track to be even with the surface of the curbing. So you notice there that they paved right up to it, and as this roller comes through, he'll put his roller right there and drive right along the edge. They did a great job of bringing the asphalt right up to our curbing. So we did not change any of the curbing. It's all the same curbing that it was there before the repaving.
Well, so I guess it's nice to know that the curbing outlasts the asphalt.
Oh yeah, because people aren't driving on it as much, especially if it's an apex curbing. People aren't getting their apexes. Come on.
and so the curbing that you use, I guess, is a more traditional type of curbing. What you would see. I know you go to a lot of different racetracks, and so that looks and I'm sure feels like the curbing that I'm used to. But you see a lot of racetracks now that are putting in gator strips, and they're putting things that are even worse on the tail end of the gator strips that effectively will cut your tire down. Is that something that you see more limited to a course where they would run IMSA or something like that, as opposed to your traditional club type course?
Yeah, curbing is dictated by the the sanctioning level that the track is trying to attain. There's many different levels of racetracks around the country, and if you're hosting professional sanctioning bodies, some of those have very specific standards of the surface or the facility at which they'll race. So I really look at it, there's different types of racetracks. You got your professional. Well, let's start at the bottom. You've got your private tracks. These are just private driving club tracks that don't host any race events. So there's several of these being built around where there's just member tracks that people come out and just do time trials or just drive their car on. There's a lot of these membership level tracks. And then the next level up is what's called a club level track. And that's where we're at. Our track was designed to be both a members track, but also designed to be able to host different driving clubs, NASA, Porsche, SCCA, these different sanctioning bodies that that come around and rent the racetracks and hold their racing events on. And then you get to the professional level of track. These are the tracks that hold the professional race series: IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR. I'm going to leave it at that. So those are, you're talking about your Watkins Glens, your Road Americas, your Laguna Secas. Those are your professional level tracks. Also, those tend to be your big spectator tracks. So those are the events where they've got, lots of spectators attending those events, where your club level track doesn't have as many spectators. And then you get to your FIA approved tracks. And Brad, what does FIA stand for? Quiz time. Oh, Brad might not be there. Still with me, Brad?
Yeah, I
Okay,
am
there you
here.
go. I'm sorry.
Let me change our views here a little bit. Yeah. So yeah,
Fed-
I'll have to look it up so I can read it to pronounce it correctly.
Federation International de Automobile, basically the global sanctioning body for racetracks and safety equipment. You'll see FIA or SFI on some safety equipment, but essentially FIA is the global sanctioning of racetrack designs, and any globally hosted race series has to go on an FIA approved or sanctioned racetrack. Quiz time again. How many different grades of FIA track sanctioning do you think exist?
Oh, I don't know, maybe 10.
Very close. There's grade 1, there's grade 1T, there's grade 2, there's grade 3, there's grade 3E, there's grade 4, there's grade 5, there's grade 6A and grade 6R. When these guys come up with tracks or approval levels, they do it well. So that's what you expect on an international level.
Well,
but
they're
essentially,
French.
yeah, they're French. Yes, they are French. Jalopnik actually did a great article in 2001 that talks about FIA track grades. And I can send Brad the link, but just do a Jalopnik search. There was a great article there. But at grade 1 is your professional level track. So COTA, Circuit of the Americas. That's why Formula One, when they come to race it, either has to be at a permanent facility that has an FIA grade level, or if they're doing street circuits like in Miami and now Las Vegas, those street circuits have to be designed to meet FIA standards. So racetracks, we have to be insurable is the bottom line, and insurable to host the different types of races that are going to be using our facility. So all those changed with the different sanctioning bodies and levels that are coming in. So the grade 1 FIA sanction, I think Circuit of the Americas, and then Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve up in Montreal, I think that's Canada's FIA circuit.
Yeah, it is.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then I guess and so at MPH, what sanctioning bodies run there? I'm assuming SCCA, NASA, but you also do what we used to refer to as World Karting Association. I guess you do karting events, but you also do a lot of motorcycle events there, and a lot of motorcycle events.
Yeah. Not only cars, we host motorcycle events. We've got a group out of Omaha called Track Addicts. They are essentially a motorcycle track day, but they also do a very good driving school, or a riding school, not a driving school. You ride a motorcycle. They're actually out here once a month. They are our best customer, or our best client here at MPH. They start showing up in April. They're here every month through September. They're a track day program, so we insure them. We partner with them, and we insure them through K&K for our events. But we are actually hosting the American Motorcycle Historic Racing Association. ARMA is going to be here, and they're out of California. So, but there's also other motorcycle road racing groups around, CMA, CMRA. There's several different motorcycle sanctioning bodies, that run.
Yeah. I saw the vintage motorcycle guys race at Barber one year, I believe. And
yes,
so that was really cool.
Yeah, they're going to be here the first weekend in June, as we're excited to host the vintage motorcycle racing event. So, but yeah, NASA, SCCA, Porsche Club, those are probably the three biggest sanctioning bodies right now that come in. And essentially, once you get a track approved or inspected, the other sanctioning bodies, especially at the club level, will accept, that we are a NASA approved track or an SCCA approved track, or whatever is sort of the accepted standard, especially at the club level. But if we were to do any sort of track design change, that has to be done by an engineering firm with all the considerations that go into it. I've got a whole section here on designing a track that we can talk about, but there is so much that goes into track design from a safety standpoint that it would just boggle your mind. So,
yeah, so that's cool. And for the Jeff mentioned insurance and K&K, and so K&K Insurance, which I believe is still based out of Indiana, they are, I think, arguably the most common or well-known insurance company that provides insurance for racetracks, for driving schools. You can get individual personal insurance and vehicle insurance through K&K as well. You'll have to Google them. I don't have a link for their website, but so Jeff, I do have another question for you. But before we get into that, we had our contest today. We're giving away a free Motorsport Park Hastings T-shirt. Jeff has been kind enough to handle the donation for us for today's giveaway, and so we had 16 people who left the comments, "I love MPH." And I want to go ahead, and so we've got time to get their information. Jeff, give me what's your email address there at MPH?
Motorsport Park Hastings at gmail.com.
Okay, so I'm going to put that in the
Park Hastings at gmail.com.
Okay, Motorsport Park Hastings at gmail.com. I'll put that all in capital letters. I'll leave that in the chat. So the person who wins today's giveaway will need to send an email to Jeff and let him know what size shirt you wear and the address on where he can ship it. And then Jeff will reach out to us and we'll provide him with a shipping label so that he can get that coming to you. But so we had 16 people that commented, Jeff. I'm going to have to scroll back up through the comments here. Why don't you pick a number between 1 and 16 and we'll see who that is.
Oh, gosh. Well, Mustang was born on April 17th. So let's go. Let me go 17.
Okay. So
I thought you said we only had 16.
We do. That would be the next person. The next person to leave a comment. Yeah. So pick another number. How's that?
How about 8?
How about 8? Okay. So we've got, let's take a look here. 2, 3, 4. Okay. I think you might know this person. His name is Randy Cotton.
Randy. Randall. His motorsport, when he signs, it's always Randall. So congrats, Randy.
Whoop, whoop. Okay. So Randy, you probably know how to get a hold of Jeff already. You probably have his personal email address and his cell phone number. But if not, be sure to send an email to Jeff at Motorsport Park Hastings @gmail.com. Okay, so we touched a little bit on, we talked a lot about repaving. We talked a little bit about the type of curbing that you have there. We've learned all about the racetrack itself. We've kind of got a pretty good idea from you what it takes to build a new racetrack, because you've done that at this point.
No, I have not built a track. Let me tell you, there's a whole much more to building a track, but repaving a track, how's that?
Yeah, and so one thing that a lot of people don't understand. Well, first off, that there's a lot of new technology that's coming out for racetracks, and I know at the PRI show, one of the things that we saw were basically electronic flaggers, or what could be electronic flag stations using lights. And so I thought that was pretty cool that people were starting to go electronic in terms of flags. So that's useful if you have a full course yellow or you had a full course red. I don't think that would work very well if you wanted to black flag an individual driver, unless you used a black light, which doesn't make much sense unless you painted your car a special color and you're racing at night.
No, what they do on those digital flag boards is they put a white border around it, and then put the car number. You can put the systems are, yes, getting very sophisticated. You can actually do a white border around black and then put the car number in the middle of it. So that's how some of those systems actually black flag. So yeah, racetracks are like a lot of businesses. We're having a hard time. Labor is always a challenge, right? Getting labor to show up to build stuff, to work the counter, but to work a racetrack, to go out and stand at a corner and flag. So the digital flagging systems or track control systems, every year at the PRI show, there's something new to learn that technology. A lot of it, some of it's GPS based, but what's really cool now is some of the systems that integrate the digital flag boards at the track, and then a GPS receiver that goes in your car with a color display on it. So as you know, we know where our track layout is. So if turn 3 goes yellow, the system knows the geographic constraints of turn 3. So Brad, as you go whipping up to turn 3, as you enter that geo-fenced area of turn 3, your display in the car will go yellow as you're going through that area. As you leave that area, the yellow goes out, you're back to green. So that's how sophisticated some of these systems are, even for just club level tracks. But some of the sanctioning bodies like Chump Car or Champ Car, and I don't know if Lemons uses that, but some of the endurance racing series are going to those in-car displays so that there's there's another backup, right, of getting information to the driver. Drivers, we tend to get transfixed on our environment, and our vision gets really focused on what's in front of us. Flags get to be secondary. So now when you're putting a display in the car to denote what the track condition is, especially a yellow, right? Passing under yellow is an offense during a race, right? You're not supposed to pass under yellow. Well, now if you've got a display in the car, there's no excuse that you did not see that yellow flag when you've got a device in your car that goes yellow when you enter a yellow area. So,
well, what if you're colorblind? Is that a valid excuse?
If you're colorblind, we need to talk about your racing license there, Mr. Grissom.
Okay. Last thing, and we've kind of touched around this a little bit, but all across the country, and it seems more common with drag strips, but across the country, you see racetracks closing down. We saw that with Atlanta. They lost a world-class facility there, an HRA facility. We've seen that with Chicago. We've seen lots of seemingly big tracks close down. We've seen a lot of the smaller regional tracks kind of go away. It's maybe more so a trend today than not, and we hope that Motorsport Park Hastings is around forever. But why don't you tell us a little bit about the business model and the business of running a racetrack? And I'd say Audubon and Joliet is an example of a racetrack that upon its initiation, the groundwork for that track was always a seemingly different business model than what we've seen with traditional road courses. And it sounds like MPH is headed that direction too. So why don't you tell us, talk about the business of running a racetrack and what the modern day business model is.
How many hours do we have?
Well, we'll try to keep it down since we're running long already. We're an hour and a half in, and we know that this will probably be the longest episode we've ever had. But in 10 minutes or less, give us the lay of the land.
Well, it all gets down to a business plan, right? Many racetracks originally came out of a passion or a desire or a hobby to do something. Well, unfortunately, in today's climate with insurance, property values, everything that goes into owning a motorsports facility, you've got to have a business plan. And that business plan really needs to dictate not only the track itself, but also how that track is operated, what's acceptable, what is not acceptable. Because if you're opening a racetrack to lose money, that's not a sustainable business model. The old joke in motorsports is how do you make a small fortune in motorsports? You start with a large fortune. Well, that's not sustainable unless you're Roger Penske or someone like that that's got additional resources to that. So, when we are very blessed here at MPH that we've got an ownership group that the track sold back in 2019. The original ownership group just wasn't able to. It was time to make a change, and so the new ownership group was a group of 4 of the original investors in the track, plus a new investor that was actually bidding against the other group. But when the bidding was over, they invited in the other bidder. So I've got 5 owners here at the track that are all very engaged in the track. As I mentioned, 4 of those partners were some of the original investors in the track. But above that, they're all very successful businessmen on their own right. So they own a racetrack in Hastings, Nebraska, not just for fun, but as a business. And kudos to them for number one, buying the track back and then putting together a business model that is sustainable, is growable, and now is essentially my job to put that business model into play, but then also bringing some of my experiences to the table as well. So we have very good meetings every week, business meetings, event meetings, just kind of what needs to be done next, what's going on, there's so much that goes in behind the scenes. But the success of any business, but especially a racetrack, gets down to a sustainable business model. And that has to be based on your location. How many days are you able to have events on your facility? I'm looking out at the track now, and it's still covered by 8 inches of snow. Turn 13, I can't even see because it's under snow. So I've got a season. I've got this much of a calendar that's available. So how am I going to make my business work during those revenue generating opportunities so that I can sustain the facility and the operations when we're not operating, when we're not closed? So that business model has to be very comprehensive. Sponsorships, memberships, all the different revenue streams that can come in, but also how do we market the track to bring in new business, to bring in new members? So without, every business has a different business plan, and it's going to be difficult to go up to anyone and say, tell me your business plan. But ours here is, we're a club level track with essentially a 8-month season, 10-month season, 11-month, 9-month season of the year that we can operate. But we also have private property here on the track where people can buy and build their garage condos. We've got a membership level at the track. We've got our Guardrail Club members that pay an annual membership fee to belong to the club, and that gets them driving privileges at our events. We've got year-round advertisers and sponsors that have their logos and their signs out here. We actually rent the operations of this clubhouse out to a group, so they host events in here. You can see the dart board behind me. They host dart tournaments out here. They do special events in here and this. So the business model of owning a racetrack, if you don't have gray hairs, you will. And but it takes the experience of having a good, solid ownership group with a long-term vision to make it happen. And the sad reality is, there used to be a joke among racetrack owners: the first owner doesn't make it, but the second and third owners do, because that first owner's got the initial capital outlay of doing all the work that it takes to build a racetrack, all the studies, the environmental studies, the design work, everything that has to do before you could even put asphalt down on the track or even start building the track, all the infrastructure that has to go on. So it's sad that we're seeing these racetracks close around the country. The urban creep or urban development is always another challenge that racetracks face. That track at one time might have been 5 miles outside of town. Well, now town is coming up to the doorstep of the racetrack. And I know there's a track in Florida that's being faced with that now, that they've proposed a residential development essentially across the fence from the racetrack. And unfortunately, property rights, the way they are, we existed first, just like an airport. People that come in and build, buy a house near an airport and then complain about the airplane noise. Well, you, Mr. and Mrs. Consumer, made that choice to buy your house near the airport. The airport was there before you, but anymore in today's world, that's still not enough to guarantee your survival. So part of the business plan of a racetrack is how are we going to cash flow? How are we going to generate the revenue? But also, where are we going to build it? So we've got long-term sustainability. Are we in an area that is going to get developed by urban creep or industrial creep? But we can't be too far out in the country, because now we don't have access to the services that we need as a racetrack: water, sewer, all those things, add to the infrastructure costs. So just like buying a house, right? Location, location, location. But then you're putting a business on it. So what's the business model that's going to sustain our facility at our location and our our operating expenses that we have here at the track.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it sounds like you've done a great job so far, and those before you have done a great job there at MPH. And it's interesting to hear sort of the business model. You know, people go to the racetrack, they use the facility up, but they really don't understand kind of what goes on behind the scenes, what it takes to build it, what it takes to maintain it, and pave it. And I know it's a huge job, and I know that you've spent many a sleepless nights and long days and long weekends that all stretch together. And in the peak of the season, you know, you don't have a day off, and at times it can be stressful. So it's really good to hear sort of from the horse's mouth. And I say that you would get that term honestly, because I've seen you eat before.
Hey, you made me eat that big burrito up in Lake Wakanda or whatever.
Yeah,
that was.
yeah, that was
Well,
interesting.
As drivers, we take our racetracks for granted. I'm guilty of it too. You know, when I was a student, when I was an instructor, you show up at a racetrack, gosh, this electrical outlet isn't working. That's kind of dirty over there, man. There's water standing on the track there. We all take it for granted and poo-poo it. Go work at a racetrack. Go work at a racetrack. Get a job as a corner worker, maintenance, whatever. Support our local racetracks. If we want the sport to grow and continue, the facilities have to be there before we can even bring people there. And then we got to get younger people involved in doing that. But then in today's insurance industry that we're dealing with, the safety, being able to provide a safe environment, being able to not only ensure the events, but ensure the facility so that the facility can be there to have the events. You know, so there's so much that goes on behind the scene when you roll through that gate that, like you said, most people really don't have any clue of. So find your track manager next time you go to a track, or the ownership group. Get on their website, send them notes, or get to understand their business, and you'll appreciate kind of where they're coming from. Every track's got different rules and regulations. Well, they're there for a reason. It's to preserve our facility, or it's not safe. Guys, I hate paperwork. And if there's an incident or an accident, there's paperwork, there's insurance, there's lawyers. I see all those invoices that come in just from a simple workman's comp claim. That's the next 3 months of paperwork, that goes on behind, something like that. So be thankful that we've got these facilities, that we've got these owners and ownership groups around the country who have a passion for, basically a playground or a competition place for people to come and enjoy their car, their motorcycle, their go-karts, whatever it might be. And also bring their families. Our guardrail club is basically a big family. We've got families that come up and do picnics right in the paddock or on one of our picnic tables, on our lunch breaks. So it's a great environment. You mentioned, Brad, there are lots of hours. I made the mistake of tracking my hours in August of this year, and it's not pretty. The number of hours that you spend, preparing, doing the business of operating a racetrack. So I appreciate. I've made some great friends around the country. And Craig Scala is signing off here. So Craig, kudos to you folks for Northwoods for infecting me with the racetrack bug at that very first event.
Well, great. That's great, Jeff, and I really appreciate all of your insight. I appreciate some of the great stories. I hope everybody enjoyed today's show and got some worthwhile value and some knowledge out of it. Jeff, I want to thank you personally for joining us today. Every time we have you on, we're trying to set a new record for the length of the show. And I want to thank all of our loyal viewers that are with us each Saturday that we do a live show, and those who are with us when we do our encore replays. Obviously, we couldn't do this without you and your interaction. And here's a piece of trivia before we close out. When Kenny wanted to get into racing, he became a corner worker, and that was his first experience in getting into racing and at a racetrack. And many of us have been corner workers over the year and volunteered our time for SECA or for the local track, and that's a great experience. Everyone should do it once. It gives you a whole new appreciation for those corner workers as well. So again, Jeff, I want to thank you for a great show. Again, if you want to learn more about Motorsport Park Hastings, just go to racemph.com. For those of you who joined us later on today in the broadcast, you can go back and you can view the full broadcast on our Facebook page, the Kenny Brown Performance Facebook page. You can also view the entire live video on YouTube. Just go to our YouTube channel and click on live shows, and that'll be in here, and you can see comments in real time as well. So again, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jeff, for joining us today, and I hope everybody has a great rest of their weekend, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Thank you all.